the greatest of all time. Thank you.
Never stop, I'll get it if I want it. Gotta make to myself a promise. I won't quit, keep going till I got it. I won't give up till I'm on top.
Yo, no, I ain't the type to give up. If I do something, man, I do it till I get what I want. I turn a business out of nothing into something I love. I got a poker face, but honestly, I'm not one to bluff. I flip a switch, never miss, man, I always stay up. Don't let them see you always have a plan to stay tough. This life ahead of you ain't easy, it was built to be rough. But that's what makes a personality, is tragedy, bruh. So keep your head on your shoulders. Now we ain't out here moving rocks, we out here moving boulders. Now we ain't getting posterized, we out here making posters. And we ain't got nothing to hide, we move forward like soldiers. You better wake up for the pay stub, or you'll pay up. Don't make love to the game, bruh, fuck the game up. Change up, rearrange stuff to your greatness. Same us for the way up, play the game, bruh.
Never stop, I'll get it if I want it. Gotta make to myself a promise. I won't quit, keep going till I got it. I won't give up till I'm on top, yeah.
You know I'm always honest, there ain't no way I'll never stop it.
I won't quit, keep going till I got it. I won't give up till I'm on top,
I'm always flirting with pain, she like to hurt me and maim. I'm always working to change, but she's still lurking the same. I keep on building a dynasty while the haters be trying me, but they hate from inside.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Unscripted here on the Elite Sports and Entertainment Network. I'm going to be your producer, moderator this evening, Logan Landers, and join me to talk about some NCAA college football game previews. As always, Jay McLovin. What's up, Jay?
Hey, I'm doing well, brother, man. Good to be here, Logan.
Yes, sir. Glad to have you here on the panel. And our resident stat guy, Dustin Reese. Dustin, say hello to the people.
Welcome and come on down to the wonderful world of FCS football, because that is the focus for this week.
You ain't wrong. As we know, the most of the main games taking a backseat this week to the, like I said, some other maybe lesser known teams out there, but we have some great games on tap for you here during the program. And we're going to kick things off, guys. Furman versus Montana. Dustin, tell people what they can expect.
Well, for those that did not get to watch Montana last week, that was the definition of a snow game, because that game started pretty much snowing at kickoff and it ended snowing at about 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Montana got the number 2 overall seed in the tournament with a 10-1 record to end the season, but 11-1 overall, and they're riding a 7-game winning streak. So they're one of the hottest teams in the nation right now for the FCS. Their offense has just been dominating, where they've scored at least 34 points or more their last 5 games, and they have yet to allow more than 20 points in that same span, versus the Furman Paladins, which I really don't know what a Paladin is at this point. But Furman was on a long winning streak before they lost their season finale to Wofford 19-13. They took on Chattanooga last week, which was a conference battle for them, and they came out with a 26-7 victory over Chattanooga. You have Clifton McDowell from Montana with just under 1,500 yards passing, 11 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, going up against Tyler Huff, who has 9 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. So from a yardage side of things, Tyler Huff is the better quarterback, but McDowell, I think, is the more experienced and better quarterback overall. But there's a reason why Montana is the number 2 ranked team in the nation. They are a very good program. They've been a solid program for years, and it's going to continue. They're going to win their 9th consecutive game this week. I don't think it's going to be as lopsided as the 49-19 win over Delaware last week, but I think it'll be about a 42-24 game. Their offense is just too good right now.
All right. Jay McLovin, are you going to back up that sentiment or maybe flip it?
No, I do have Montana taking it over Furman, honestly, and there's a couple of reasons why. The first reason is defensively. They have a better defense than Furman does. Furman is ranked 7th in points allowed on their defense, to Montana is ranked 4th on points allowed. So that just kind of gives you one aspect right there. The players to watch, like you said, is McDowell, man. 8 touchdowns, 616 yards on the ground. Dude's got 11 touchdowns and 2 picks. Now, you look at Tyler Huff on the flip side of that, right? Dude's got 9 touchdowns but 5 picks. I always said, Logan, if your interceptions are more than half of your touchdowns, That's a big issue for me. He does have 520 on the ground and 5 touchdowns. So I think, if you look at Montana, Braden Hill has 96 tackles, 2.5 sacks, and 2 interceptions, and I think he has 1 fumble recovery. So he's obviously one of the big stars on that defense that's ranked 4th in points allowed. Not to say that Brady Gilby, which is his counterpart on the opposite side, at 81 tackles, 3.5 sacks, or 3 sacks, and 7 tackles for loss. Not a bad guy at all. But I really think, Logan, at this juncture, it's going to come down to who can score the most points, whose defense is better, and who can have the least amount of turnovers. And all of that indicates towards Montana taking this game.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with both of you guys. This is only the second time these teams have ever met in history. Last time was all the way back in 2001. So it's been quite a long time coming for both these programs here. You guys have brought up good points. Montana, obviously, they have a great coach with Bobby Hawk. He's been there for 13 years now. Has been absolutely doing a tremendous job. Furman, they rock with Clay Hendricks, who's put up a nice 51-28 record throughout his 7 seasons there. Like I said, number 7 seed in Furman versus the number 2 seed in Montana. Like you guys have said, Montana's offense is just high-powered. They're going to put some points up on the board, and that's why I'm going to go with the final score of Montana. Get the W, 36. I'll go Furman 17, final score in this ball game. Winner of this one will be taking on the winner of the game we're going to talk about in just a second. That's going to be either South Dakota or North Dakota State. We'll get to that in just a second. But up first, we're talking about Villanova taking on South Dakota State with the Jackrabbits. Jay McLovin, who's taking this one?
Yeah, I definitely got South Dakota State at 12-0 over Villanova 10-2. So I got South Dakota State taking this one for a couple of reasons. South Dakota State is, let's not forget, the defending champion, number 1. Number 2, this is really the most important thing to me, or the most, not important, but impressive. Let me say impressive thing to me, is that they're on a 26-game win streak, and it's tied for 3rd longest in D1 history. So these guys already know how to win. They've been winning for a really long damn time, honestly, Logan. If you look at, the keys or the players of the game, you look at, for Villanova, Watkins has 20 touchdowns and 9 interceptions, 326 on the ground. But he's got 10 touchdowns on the ground. So that means I think this dude does a lot of quarterback sneaks. Jalen Jackson at the wide receiver has got 914 yards. So he's almost a 1,000-yard receiver and 8 touchdowns. And then, of course, you look at their linebacker, Hartzell, at 82 tackles, 4 sacks, and an interception. So they have a pretty good stud on their defensive side, a pretty good offensive side as well. But, man, this South Dakota team, man. I want to point out, by the same token, they're on a 26-game winning streak. Villanova is on a 7-game win streak. So you got 2 guys coming in here on win streaks. Davis this will be his, I think he's at 10 out of 13 games played that he's got 100 or plus yards rushing the ball. So, obviously, for South Dakota State, Davis is going to be the guy at 1,192 rushing yards and 14 touchdowns. So I look for Davis to have a pretty good day as long as Villanova's defense doesn't do too well on that stuff into the rush. So, and keep an eye out for Stahlberg as a linebacker. He's got 65 tackles, 2 sacks, and an interception and a forced fumble recovery. So these guys both have studs on the defense, but I think it's going to come down to Davis running the ball to see who takes this win. And I'm going to go South Dakota State on this one. I think it's going to be a close game, though. I think it'll be I think it'll be a score of the last one. I think this one will be I'm going to go 21-13.
Okay. Dustin, do you see South Dakota State extending that win streak in this bowl game against Villanova?
Well, congratulations, Villanova. You won your first playoff game. Here's your prize. You get to go to South Dakota State.
Yeah.
South Dakota State is the Alabama, the Georgia of the FCS at this point. They are just a machine of a team. They swapped out head coaches, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, and the offensive coordinator of the old team is now the head coach now, and so the team hasn't missed a beat. Like Jay was talking about with Isaiah Davis, I said this a lot of times earlier when we started these preview shows that I thought Isaiah Davis was the best running back in the country between FBS and FCS. And I still feel that way. Isaiah Davis is an absolute beast that nobody talks about just because you don't get the viewership that you normally see until you get to this point in the season. He's one of those guys that is a game-breaking running back, both in the passing game and just rushing the football. You have another Jonke brother in Jaden Jonke, where that makes 4 Jonke brothers that have been in South Dakota State. Now he's the team's leading receiver. Mark Gronowski, almost 2,600 yards passing, 24 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. For a league that doesn't throw the ball a ton, Gronowski's kind of the abnormality at that point. He throws the ball a lot. He takes care of the ball a lot. He makes the plays he needs to make. And just this South Dakota team, when you watch them play, I have a feeling they're going to be the next James Madison, where they leave the FCS and join the Mountain West and the FBS because they have the resources to do that. They have the talent to do that. And this team is just good. I think it's going to be 35-7. Villanova does not match up well against South Dakota State in any aspect.
Yeah, I'm going to, piggyback off both of y'all. I think that you mentioned South Dakota State is the equivalent to Georgia, Alabama, teams that we've seen go on dominant runs. And, I mean, they have just been beating people up left and right. It's going to take a miracle for Villanova if they want to win this one. Like I said, they're going on the road to South Dakota. It's going to be a tough matchup, obviously. South Dakota's got a 26-game win streak in total, 19 of those at home. So, they are playing with house money right now. So, give me the Jackrabbits. Big game in this one. I'll go 34. Villanova, I'll go 14, 34-14. All right, coming up next, we just mentioned it, North Dakota State with the Bison taking on South Dakota. Dustin, who can we expect to win this one?
I said last week the best game of the weekend was going to be North Dakota State at Montana State, and it lived up to the billing with North Dakota State winning 35-34 in overtime, courtesy of a blocked extra point. I'm going to piggyback off of that and say the best game of the weekend is going to be North Dakota State at South Dakota for the border battle. And I think you're starting to see people are now regretting not giving North Dakota, let alone a top 8 seed, but even a top 4 seed, because they were not a top 4 seed for the first time in a long time. They weren't even a top 8 seed this year. And I understand 10-3 isn't like a record that's going to normally get you a top 8 seed, but you have to look at the teams that North Dakota State played, the teams that they lost to, and the body of work that North Dakota State has done. This is a very scary team that is playing with a chip on their shoulder. And they always say in college football, the most difficult opponent to face is one that has something to prove or one that has a chip on their shoulder. And that is exactly what North Dakota State has right now. They have a chip on their shoulder for not being a national seed. And I think they're going to keep it rolling. I think they're going to take down South Dakota 42-34 in another great game.
Jay McLovin, do you see the Bison getting the win in this one, or do you think the Coyotes will keep it winning?
Yeah, Logan, I'll be honest with you. I think this is where South Dakota is just too tough. Both South Dakota teams, South Dakota State and South Dakota, are going to get their wins in this one. I'll be honest with you. This is, like Dustin said, probably the more marquee matchup just because these guys are a little bit more evenly matched at 10-3. North Dakota versus 10-2 South Dakota. So I think it's going to be a little bit more evenly matched, which is going to make it a little bit more climactic or dramatic in fashion. So I always like when they're a little bit closer in talent because it's going to make it for a better game to watch versus like South Dakota State. I think they're going to run over Villanova. And then by second quarter, you're looking at some other game because this one just lost your interest. When you look at this, South Dakota beat North Dakota State in regular season. The interesting thing or statistic that I think is interesting to me is North Dakota State is 0-2 on the road in 13 previous quarterfinals. And guess what, Logan? This game's on the road. I wonder if it's going to be 0-3. So, again, they did lose to them in the regular season. I don't see why they wouldn't beat them in the playoffs, especially in being on the road or North Dakota being on the road. Miller has, 17-4. He's got 640 rush, 12 touchdowns rushing. So the guy's got a great stat line for a quarterback. Tariq Williams, their running back, has 657-7. And then their safety, Wisnowski, has 79 tackles, 6 sacks. So he's like their stud guy. But then you look at South Dakota State. The only thing I don't like about South Dakota State is they have a couple of less touchdowns and only 4 interceptions, and he doesn't really have any rushing yards to speak of. So I think that he may be a little bit more one-dimensional, whereas Miller at least can get you some yards on the ground. But at the end of the day, man, I think Brock Mogensen. I hope I said his name right. And 110 tackles and 1 interception as that linebacking core. And the cornerback, Miles Harden. Those are going to be your star studs on the defense. And I think South Dakota's defense is going to be more than what North Dakota State can take on. So for that one, I'm going to give it a close one. I'm going to go. I guess I'll go like 21-14 in favor of South Dakota.
All right, for me, I'm going to go with the Coyotes taking the W in this one. As Dustin mentioned, the Bison, they came off a super close win in the second round against Montana State, 35-34. But it wasn't pretty. It wasn't an easy win. They gave up over 500 yards in that ball game, which, you look at it, that's happened in 3 of their last 4 playoff games. You go back to last year. So I don't know. I'm not really feeling the Bison in this one. Jay, you did a good job mentioning what the South Dakota brings to the table with their quarterback and their, tough defenders. So I'll go. I think this is going to be a close one, like we're all saying. So for me, I'll go with I'll go with South Dakota getting the win in this one. I'll go 30-27, 3-point ball game. I want this to be good. All right, coming up next, and also, by the way, the winner of this game here with North Dakota State and South Dakota, they'll be taking on the winner of Montana and Furman, which we mentioned as our first game preview. Coming up next on the pipeline, we have Albany taking on Idaho. We'll go with Jay. Talk about who you think is going to win this one, my friends. You got the Vandals getting this one, or you think Albany's going to take it?
Yeah, on this one, I am going to go with Albany. Albany versus Idaho. There's about 1 game difference between the two. Albany is 10-3. Idaho is 9-3. I love this guy's last name. The quarterback, Poffenberger. I hope I said that name right.
Yeah, you did. Reese
Poffenberger. Attaboy, Jay.
Poffenberger. Look, the guy's got a crap ton of touchdowns, Logan. He's got 33 touchdowns, but he does have 10 interceptions. But I can overlook 10 interceptions when you got 33 touchdowns. And the reason why I say that is McCoy's only got 14 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. And, Logan, you know how I feel when your interceptions are more than half of your touchdowns. To me, that's always a good indicator that it's not going to go your way. If you look at the rest of it, if you look at points, Idaho does have more points per game at 33-30. But, I mean, honestly, these guys are pretty damn close when it comes to points being scored. Even their passing yardage is about almost the same, 243 to 256. And rushing at 163 to 126 is what I want to highlight the most, because I will say this, Idaho does run the ball better or more effectively than what Albany does, by about 40 yards or so. But here's the deal. Here's where I think the deal breaker for me is when you look at opponents' yardage or points, points or what they give up. Idaho gives up 21 points, and Albany only gives up 16. And that, for me, is the big factor. Even though Albany runs the ball better, they also give up way more points. And when you look at passing yards, though, I will give them that. Passing yards, they give up less at 172 to Albany's 226. But here is the biggest thing of all. I just told you that Idaho runs the ball better, but Albany defends the rush better at 76 yards allowed to Idaho's 125. And that really is the biggest thing. Woodell has 790 for Albany on the ground, and running back Woods has 1055 for Idaho on the ground. But I don't think that Woods you're going to hear a whole hell of a lot of, because I do think that Albany's defense will crush the rush, and I do think that they will give up less amount of points and score more. So for those reasons, I do have Albany taking it. I think it'll be a close game because a lot of these guys are matched up pretty evenly. So I'm going to go 28-17 in favor of Albany.
All right. Dustin Reese, in their first meeting, who's going to take the win in this one? The 5 seed in Albany or the 4 seed in Idaho?
The most disappointing thing about this game is it's the only game of the weekend that's not on TV. This is one that's on ESPN Plus. The other 3 are either on ESPN or ABC. So nobody will get to see the unique factor about the Kibbe Dome, which is where Idaho plays. The unique factor about the Kibbe Dome is there is no room in the dome to put the goalposts. So when you're kicking a field goal, you have the upright and the crossbar that is attached to the back wall.
Hold on. What?
Yep.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Oh my God.
There's no room to put the goalpost on the edge of the goal line, so they have to attach the uprights and the crossbar to the back cement wall.
Dude, that
You basically
I'll
bounce
find
the
a
football
photo.
off the wall?
The net is literally against the wall, so when you kick the football, there's like a 5-foot gap between the uprights and the wall, and the net's like attached to the wall, so it literally just hits the net and the wall at the same time.
Yeah, I'm trying to find a photo of it here, but it's very strange. Anyways, Dustin, continue while I find a photo of it to show the people.
And what Jay was talking about with Reese Poffenbarger, I'm gonna make a hot take right now that
Go
Reese
ahead.
Poffenbarger is going to be the first player from the University of Albany to ever get drafted in the NFL.
Ooh.
And the reason why I say that is last season he threw for 2,999 yards with 24 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. This season he's thrown for 3,041 yards with 33 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. So in 2 seasons he has 57 touchdowns and 14 interceptions and just under 6,000, or actually just over 6,000 yards passing. He is a true sophomore. So he has 2 years left in this Albany system. Or if he really wants to and has another good year at Albany, he could elect to leave for an FBS school for his senior season, because at 6 feet, 210 pounds, he's a little bit smaller than what you typically see in a quarterback. But he is by far the best quarterback in the FCS and realistically has a great shot to be a starter in the FBS level in a year or two. Mm. And when it comes to Idaho, they have a lot of weapons on offense, but they don't have like a ton of breakout players. Yes, the quarterback McCoy's got 2,600 yards. Yes, the receiver Hatton's got over 1,000 yards. And their running back has over 1,000 yards and 15 touchdowns. So yes, they have a lot of talent on their skill positions. But when you start getting into the overall depth of the Idaho roster, they don't have nearly the same amount of depth as the Albany Great Danes do. And when you get this late into the playoffs, this late into the season, obviously experience matters, which you could make the case that Idaho has more experience than Albany. But ultimately, the quarterback play is what's going to be the biggest difference. And because of the way that Poffensberger has played and the way he's played his first 2 years, I'm going with Albany with a slight upset, even though a 4-5 really shouldn't be considered an upset. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go Albany 34-31.
All right. And as you can see, here's the photo of the Kibbe Dome. I'm going to put it full screen here. Yeah. That's not I've ever seen before, Jay. I don't know about you.
That is weird as hell.
And where the photographer is at, he's against the wall.
Yep.
So it smacks the back of the wall.
And then if you look at the other side of the wall where it says Vandals.
Yeah.
Right above Vandals, you kind of see how that's like a little cutout right there.
Yeah, right near the D.
That's where the camera crews for ESPN sit, is right up in that nice little cutout up there.
My goodness.
Whoever
designed that.
That is crazy.
Whoever designed that, I'm sure got a stern talking to.
It is the coolest thing ever. I watched it last week, and it is the coolest thing ever because you see someone throw a slant to the back of the end zone, and they catch it, and they hit the wall, and you're wondering where the goalpost was.
Dude, that is.
I think whoever designed that stadium needs to be talked to, because clearly he didn't give it enough room to have the damn goalpost in there.
It's someone who hasn't seen a football game before said, "Hey, you'll make a football field." Is this what I do with these things? These two yellow yellow bars here? I don't know. Back on topic though, for me, like you guys said, there's going to be solid game here. Number 4 taking on number 5. Whoever wins this game is going to have a tough task though. They're all going to take on South Dakota State or Villanova if they pull off a massive upset. So this is going to be a tough one nonetheless. I'll go in the end with this one. I got to rock with Albany. I'll go with a close win though. Give me 28-21, 7-point ball game. Albany getting the slight win over the Vandals in the Kibbe Dome. All right, and now our final game preview. Army versus Navy. Jay McLovin, you have a very close connection to both these schools, so I'll let you start things off and see which side you're going to make mad about your prediction.
Yeah, I really hate this game, to be honest with you, because I have friends in both, armed forces. I got my Navy friends from when I was a second-class petty officer in the Navy, and then I got my friends in the Army, like Philip Tross, when I was a sergeant. And, this game never is fun for me because, it's hard to pick a side when you're close to both sides. But I know we have to do that. That's our job. And, interesting thing enough is neither one of these guys are having a good season. Both of them are 5-6. So, number one, they have the same record. And number two, it's a losing record. So, I guess it makes it a little harder to pick sides. When you look at Navy, and the thing, too, this is the thing I hate about Army-Navy games is there's never a lot of passing. It's mostly a lot of trick plays that are running. And Logan, nothing wrong with a good run game. But sometimes I get a little bored with that. I like to see the air game. And neither one of these guys really has a true, quote-unquote, air game. And you know how you know that? Because Daly only has 859 yards, and he's 6-6 for Army. I hope I'm saying that right because I didn't write down which side. Yeah, for Army. And then for Levite, for Navy, he only has 522 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. So the best thing I can say about this is Levite has 4 less interceptions than Daly. And you know how I said, Logan, if you're equal to or more on interceptions versus touchdowns, I just don't like you. And so for that reason, I'm going to go Navy. But this is really kind of a very boring game. I mean, even at the running back side, 188 for 817 for Daly of Army for 7 touchdowns. That's kind of, when you're mainly a running team, I would expect more. But then you look at I can't say his name. Tessa, however you say that guy's name. He's got 117 for 724. So the one bright spot for Navy is the fact that he gets more yards per carry than Daly does for Army. So for that reason, and pretty much that reason alone, I'm going to go Navy in this one. And that's going to be a very boring game. When all you do is run the damn ball, it's going to be slow. And it's going to be a lot of time clock management. So I look at this game as probably, I don't know, man, 2013 in favor of Navy.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. And Dustin, who you got winning America's game? You got Army or you got the Navy?
Well, unlike years in the past, I mean, this game is always like a very emotional game for both sides, a very big game for both sides just because it's the armed forces and things like that. But this year, there's a lot more at stake than what there has been in the past, as both teams are sitting at 5-6, where there is a possible bowl berth on the line for whoever wins this game. And I believe 42 of the 43 bowls have been accounted for, which means the winner of this game is going to get that final bowl berth.
Yeah.
So this is ultimately has a lot more on the line than in games past, because the winner gets one more game, the loser's season comes to an end. And with both teams being 5-6 and 5-6, I mean, they're not great teams, but they're not terrible either. Army's had a lot of success the last couple of years. They've kind of had a down year this year, versus Navy was having a lot of success from 2015 to 2018. They went through some down years and seems like they're trending in the right direction, heading the other way. So it's just kind of one of those cases where both of these teams are talent-wise, I think, the same. They know each other very well because they play each other very well. And it's just, this is one of those games where, yes, the wins and the losses matter because there's a lot at stake in this game. But this is also one of those games where the wins and losses don't matter because this is more than just a football game. This is a celebration of our troops. This is a celebration for all the service men and women in our country that have given their lives and done what they've done so we could play the game of football. And this is kind of their way to give it back. It's their Super Bowl every year that they wait for. Unlike the previous years where the game was always played in Philadelphia, we get to head up to the Boston Tea Party this year to have some crumpets and tea, because this game is at Gillette Stadium this year. So at least the Patriots fans will get to watch a winning product on the field.
Oh, that was a harsh thing. I will say this. Let me say this. You know, Dustin. You know what's interesting to me, man? It's actually Air Force is playing better than both of these teams. Air Force.
That's because Air Force gets
a lot of money.
Well, they do, but they get a lot of the people that Colorado and Colorado State get, though, too, because Air Force is located in Colorado Springs.
I know. But I think a lot. But I will tell you this: I have seen all three sides of the fence. I've been to an Air Force base, I've been to an Army, obviously post, and I've been to several Navy bases. And I will tell you, it goes in pretty much this order in terms of the best of everything. And I will tell you, Air Force is number 1, the Army is number 2, and the Navy is probably number 3. Even the Army food is better than the Navy food. And I don't know, for some reason, even the barracks, everything about the Air Force and what they're given is just always so much better than what everybody else gets. And I got to tell you, President Biden, if you're listening to me, give those guys in Army and Navy some damn money.
There you go.
I think Navy hangs on to win 20-17, and I think Navy's the one that gets that final bowl spot.
All right, yeah. For me, like I said, it's going to be a 3:30 Eastern start, I believe. So everyone should be around to watch it. It's always a great game. The pregame festivities are always really neat to watch too. You get to learn stories about the players on the field, what they've been going through, their friends, their family, and obviously the schools they're at, and so that's always really neat. Kind of a sense of camaraderie in a way, which God knows we need that. But looking at this game, like I said, two teams who are kind of evenly matched. Like you said, not steamrolling guys, but also just kind of hanging on. So it's a tough game. It'll be a close one, I think. I'll go with overall, though, I'll go with Army getting winning this one. I'll have it be a close game, though, Jay. We'll go 27-24 with Army taking home the win in this one. Well, guys, as always, I appreciate y'all coming on, talking some college football previews. Like I said, slightly different this week. We had to go with some other games, but we're glad to shine some light on some lesser-known talent and give them their flowers. Once again, a lot of great games this weekend. Go and check them out on ESPN Plus, as well as all their cable networks you can find them on and your local listings. Jay McLovin, always a pleasure. Dustin Reese, our resident stack, always helping us out. I've been your host and producer, Logan Landis. We'll talk to you guys again on another episode of the Elite Sports and Entertainment Network.